I think we're working on that too. And I think there's a good chance that in the next year or two, we also solve that. I think you get most of the way there without it. I think the trillions of dollars I think the trillions of dollars a year market, maybe all of the national security implications and the safety implications that I wrote about in Adolescence of Technology can happen without it. But I also think we, and I imagine others, are working on it. And I think there's a good chance that we get there within the next year or two. There are a bunch of ideas. I won't go into all of them in detail, but one is just make the context longer. There's nothing preventing longer context from working. You just have to train at longer context and then learn to serve them at inference. And both of those are engineering problems that we are working on and that I would assume others are working on as well.
Yeah, so this context line thing creates, it seemed like,
and the Gates Foundation is trying as hard as they can. Others are trying as hard as they can, but that's difficult. I don't expect most of the economic diffusion to be as difficult as that, right? That's like the most difficult case. But there's a real dilemma here, and where I've settled on it is it will be faster than anything we've seen in the world, but it still has its limits. And so then when we go to buying data centers, the curve I'm looking at is, okay, we've had a 10x a year increase every year. So beginning of this year, we're looking at 10 billion in annual rate of annualized revenue at the beginning of the year. We have to decide how much compute to buy. It takes a year or two to actually build out the data centers, to reserve the data centers. So basically, I'm saying like in 2027, how much compute do I get? Well, I could assume that the revenue will continue growing 10x a year.
All right, back to Dario. You've told investors that you plan to be profitable starting in 2028. And this is the year where we're like potentially getting the country of geniuses of the data center. And this is like going to now unlock all this progress and medicine and health and et cetera, and new technologies. Wouldn't this be exactly the time where you'd like want to reinvest in the business and build bigger countries so they can make more discoveries?
So I mean, profitability is this kind of like weird thing in this field. I don't think in this field profitability is actually a measure of kind of spending down versus investing in the business. Like let's just take a model of this. I actually think profitability happens when you underestimated the amount of demand you were going to get, and loss happens when you overestimated the amount of demand you were going to get, because you're buying the data centers ahead of time. So think about it this way. Ideally, you would like, and again, these are stylized facts. These numbers are not exact I'm just trying to make a toy model here. Let's say half of your compute is for training and half of your compute is for inference. And the inference has some gross margin that's like more than 50%. And so what that means is that if you were in steady state, you build a data center, if you